connection's never been more important. And if you can learn those skills, and a lot of them aren't even skills, it's literally just being present with a human being and being aware of what's going on and just holding space for them. If we can do that, we're going to be successful in business and successful in life and relationships, in my opinion.
That each and every one of us can change the world every day with our actions. You know, how we go about our day, how we interact with others, you know, whether we're giving them a smile or giving them a frown or turning the other way. The more I saw that people need support from one another, people need connection, people need love, as you shared earlier. That's where the phrase impact heroes came from, you know, for our community is that every one of us can create impact and be a hero to another.
Welcome to the Health Conscious Living Podcast. Welcome. I'm Dr. Gayle Myers, and today my special guest is Ben Albert. Ben is the owner of Balbert Marketing. He is also the curator of the Real Business Connections Network, where he hosts 5 podcasts. Once an underdog, now a successful entrepreneur, Ben is passionate about helping other underdogs achieve their dreams.
I'm excited to be here. I know from behind the scenes the amount of time and effort and love you put into this show. So I just really appreciate you spending some of that time with me and everything you do to create such an amazing podcast here, Gayle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's lovely. We talked about this before we started recording about how connection is so important as humans. We need to be connected to ourselves. We need to be connected with each other. And so when you started your podcast, during the pandemic, we were all disconnected. And so that's where Zoom, became really our connection space or FaceTime or, just being on the phone or texting or just being able to connect any way we could. But you found another way to connect. And then you started expanding that connection to the point where you took one podcast and now it's 5.
I had a Rochester music podcast at the time. Music industry was shut down. I was unemployed, non-essential. So I'm like, let's try a Rochester business podcast and we'll call it Rochester Business Connections, because a connection request is what a friend request is on LinkedIn. And then let's get on LinkedIn and we'll reach out. I went to State University, New York, Brockport. So let's reach out to SUNY Brockport alumni who are business owners and highlight business owners from Rochester. It was incredibly tactical. Even the word connection was tactical. I needed some. So I started a connection show to get some. To jump, and I'm skipping a lot, but to jump way forward, I got into it thinking that I needed business connections, which I did. That's how I started building my business. But it was the actual meaning behind the word of connection is what I got. I went in thinking I needed to network and get referrals, but I got FaceTime with brilliant people that became mentors. I got tips that I maybe never would have learned unless I went deep into a dive of buying a course, or who knows. Like, I got to spend 60 minutes with a brilliant person and shared their life lessons. I made friends that now that things are opened up, way past COVID, I see them all the time. We go to events, we grab a beer here and then. It's like, I went in thinking I needed business connections, which wasn't wrong. Like, I wanted to maybe start a business, but it was the real life connection. It was the relationships that I earned that I found was actually the most, that was the true award. And that's what keeps me going, even if I don't have millions of listeners.
You have this really amazing ability in connecting with people to connect in a way that really serves them, right? So you've got enough of the variation in your different podcasts and so many different people. That's the brilliance to be. And what I love about it is the connection. It's the human relationship that really changed everything. Because when it comes down to it, maybe, I don't know, in the past, it seemed that business connections were not the kind of connections we have now. Now it truly is like a human to human connection.
Okay, to riff on that, I think it's like a beautiful, wild, amazing thing that's happening because I wasn't born way back in the day, but like there was a milkman that would come to your house and like conversation, like what people had a freaking phone that they had to stand by in the kitchen. Like I remember that. I'm not that young, but it's like we used to be far more relationship driven. And with the invent of technology, I think there's a lot of fakeness online.
Mhm.
There's a lot of facades, and a lot of people feel disconnected. And with the internet and technology, it's never been easier to connect, but we've never felt more disconnected. And I think a beautiful silver lining in this is people that are relationship driven, people that are client focused, people that truly care, that show up and are present for others, they're going to do great in business.
Mhm.
All the technology is not going to make that. The technology is a tool, but connection's never been more important. And if you can learn those skills, and a lot of them aren't even skills, it's literally just being present with a human being and being aware of what's going on and just holding space for them. If we can do that, we're going to be successful in business and successful in life and relationships, in my opinion, at least, Gail.
I agree. I agree because, my line that I always, not just line, but what I truly believe as a key take home for all of us is that we're spiritual beings having a human adventure to learn, to grow, to gain wisdom, and to share our gifts with the world. And it is an adventure, that's for sure. Um, but when it comes down to it, we all are connected, even though, like, the pandemic made us feel disconnected,
Yeah.
but we never really were. We just had to have another way to connect, and it helped. To me, in many ways, what it did was it helped us to refocus on ourselves because it made us look at ourselves, right? We couldn't go anywhere, or if we did, it wasn't very far, and
Mm.
we had to regroup because everything was different. And I wrote a uh, a blog post early on about resilience because I am so fascinated by the indomitable human spirit and resilience. Because when you tune into that part of you like you did, that was the affirmative, the positive, the growth set, the possibilities instead of all the limitations, you're unstoppable. And so when we are focused on that, then the connection that we have with ourselves, we can expand that to others. And in that article, I said, when we emerge from the pandemic, we'll be so happy to be together and be
Hmm.
with each other in a new way because we will have connected with ourselves. So, there's a lot to it. And I'm just happy for you that you had your journey and you're here to share with us because it's really, you're making a great impact. And how would you like to leave the audience today? With what pearls or pearls of wisdom would you like to share?
Mm. Well, I first want to share we started with this. This would not have been possible without you.
Oh,
So if someone's listening and they haven't hit subscribe, possibly leave a review. You can hit 5 stars or you can write a little bit. Show some love because this podcast is incredible and it would not be possible without Gail. So thank you. I want to just say that. And we'll just go back. I just want to have repetition. There is no key to success. It's a combination lock. Who in your life haven't you spoken to recently? Who can you reach out to? Who have you been learning from? Maybe you're reading a book. Why don't you message them on LinkedIn or Instagram and say, hello, I read your book. Here's 3 things I learned. Start making these connections, having these conversations, spreading that possibility virus we talked about, because there is no key to success. It's a combination lock. Who's going to be the team members, the ideas, the people in your life that create your combination? And if you can figure that out, you can just basically unlock anything in this world. So that's what we want to do, right?
Yes. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. That was lovely. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll speak soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
And today's special guest is Rick Ornelas. Rick is an ultimate success coach, best-selling author, and founder of iSpark Change. He helps individuals flourish personally and professionally by eliminating the roadblocks preventing their success. Rick wasn't always interested in helping others on a global scale, despite being pushed repeatedly in the direction by a near-death experience, family tragedies, and deaths. It wasn't until the ever-worsening times of 2020, when he was anxious, isolated, and desperate, that he finally got the wake-up call. Welcome, Rick.
Oh, thank you very much, Gayle. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and it's a pleasure to, get to connect and have an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Well, Rick, most of us don't see ourselves or think of ourselves as heroes. How does iSpark Change define hero?
Oh, yes, thank you. And you did ask about impact heroes. So when I first started all this and had the idea for iSpark Change and everything, even for those 20 years, I never saw myself as a hero. I never saw myself as having a world-changing impact, because I thought I was just too small. I mean, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I mean, I remember not voting in elections when I was younger, because I'm like, what is my vote going to do, right? It's just one person. And the reality is that each and every one of us can change the world every day with our actions. And I didn't realize that until a couple years ago, when I started on this path, is that each day we have a choice to positively or negatively impact the world with just our mentality towards ourselves, how we go about our day, how we interact with others, whether we're giving them a smile or giving them a frown, or turning the other way when we pass by a stranger, and not pretending we don't notice them because we don't want to make eye contact or anything. I mean, all those little things all have an impact on one another. And as I dove into, more research on psychology and different generational psychological issues as a result of the pandemic and everything, the more I saw that people need support from one another. People need connection. People need love, as you shared earlier. That's where the phrase impact heroes came from, for our community, is that every one of us can create impact and be a hero to another. I started hearing different stories of what we phrased as a spark moment, and which is when there's a moment in time where you influence someone in another way, or they influence you in some way that has a ripple effect that goes far beyond that initial act and continues, way farther than you can even see. And the example I use often is that, you may smile at someone at the grocery store and you just go about your day and leave, and that may be the only smile they've seen that day. That may be the only hello they've heard that day. And it can lift their day up. It can change their whole outlook on life. And I've heard story after story of people that have, been on the verge even of suicide, even in taking their own life. And it was one little thing, one phone call, one text message, one smile that totally changed what they were thinking and what they were going to do. And I've had people relate that to me from my work, of hearing me speak on a podcast or hearing me speak on an interview and the impact that it had on them. And that's when I realized that all of us are heroes. We all have impact. It's just if we choose to do so, on a daily basis.
Just our presence and that hello, you could say spirit to spirit, hello, changes everything. That's what heals. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's so beautiful. Well, Rick, what from the wisdom that you have gained and how you've changed your life so beautifully and impacting globally and growing in that global impact, what 3 things would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, I probably talk too much, but I think I can sum it up in 3, Gayle. I would say number 1, first and foremost, is that what we were just talking about is that everyone makes a difference. So don't believe for 1 second, whoever is listening or watching this interview, don't believe for 1 second that you don't make a difference, that you don't matter, that all of us do, and we all create impact, and we all have the power to change the world because of that, that impact that we all contain within us, that we can all change the world and make the world a better place. So that's first and foremost, that's the most important thing. And then the second one I would say is to create your purpose, to, not let, days go by, years go by, 20 years go by or longer without creating that purpose in your life. And I used to think that, we need to find our purpose, that it's something you go out and search for. And I don't believe that anymore because, I had found it, but I wasn't creating it. I wasn't doing something with it. And that's where we have to, put it into action and really create. It's like the saying, knowledge is power, and not really, because you can have all the knowledge in the world and read 1,000 books a year, but if you don't do anything with it, then it's useless, right? So if you don't do anything with your purpose, then it's not going to benefit you or anyone else. So, really create that purpose.
Just remembering that we're each so special. We each have an essence that is irreplaceable, and we each have gifts. And it's really just remembering what that gift is, and you spark that in yourself to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%, that's so accurate. Gayle, is that, and I didn't always see that for myself. And I know many others that I've interacted with or coached, they don't necessarily see that. And we're all filled with just, that incredible spirit of God and gifts. And, we just have to share that with others. And that would be, it's funny, you kind of took the third one for me or presented it for me, but that's really the third one is to share your gifts with the world. Because, I know for me, one thing I heard God tell me is that I was not sharing these gifts and talents and all these things that he had given me. And I wasn't, I was doing him a disservice by not, and myself obviously, and others, by not sharing them with the world, by just, not putting them to use. And, I see that as a sin, as not, if you're not going to use the gifts that you've been given, then, why were they given to you in the first place? And so I would say for any of your audience to share their gifts, with the world. Don't let fear get in the way and keep them from sharing those gifts. Because we're all filled, like you said, with that spirit and with a ton of gifts, and we just have to give them to others and help others with them.
Thank you. So beautifully said. And so now, for those of you who are sharing your gifts with the world, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you. And thank you. It's been a fantastic interview. I've very much enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Gayle.
You're welcome.
But we're iSpark Change on any platform. So we have a very active Instagram. That's our biggest platform. But if it's I_spark_change there, but Twitter, we have a LinkedIn page and group on LinkedIn, Facebook page and group. Our website is isparkchange.com. So if they want to learn more about iSpark Change, they can go there. They can go to rickornelas.com. But all questions, all comments, they will all be answered. So we love to connect with people in the community and help them grow.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing all your gifts with us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Gayle. Thank you very much for having me on the show, and God bless you for all the work that you're doing to help others. And I'm glad that when you had your accident, that you obviously had many gifts to share with the world, and so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to work with me for more insight, go to my website and book a private session. And check out my latest transformational meditation. Have a blessed day.